The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Good evening and welcome to Down the Garden Path with your host Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board this evening, dial 905-725-1907. Toll free in North America, 1-866-905-7325. Worldwide, 1-866-656-5477. Send us an email right now. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to this episode of Down the Garden Path, where each week we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. As landscape designers and gardeners, we think it is important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we want to help you make it happen. I'm Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design for the past 11 years. It is currently a design-only business here east of the GTA. With me is my co-host, Matthew Dressing. Welcome, Matthew.
Welcome, Joanne. Welcome, Gary. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this evening. I'm Matthew Dressing, horticulturist and landscape designer, and owner of Natural Affinity Designs. Natural Affinity is a landscape design and garden maintenance firm servicing Toronto and the eastern GTA. Joanne and I enjoy doing Down the Garden Path each week, bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you, from each other, from our research, and from the guests that join us here on the show. As always, we welcome your questions via social media, emails, and phone calls.
That's right. We can have phone calls today. So we do want to also thank you again for joining us here down the garden path, and to remember that this show is then released later this week as a podcast. So you can also listen to our past episodes by subscribing to Down the Garden Path podcast on your favorite podcast app, so on your phone or your computer, and then that way every week when it loads, it just loads automatically on your phone. So subscribe to us.
Exactly, subscribe, and don't forget to leave us any comments, likes, and shares.
That's right.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah. So we love it's a little different than your normal podcast because we don't edit it, and we just love the casual and conversational aspect of our show. So welcome to Down the Garden Path.
Exactly, welcome. And tonight,
yes,
it's May. We're getting close to the Victoria Day long weekend, which here in the GTA is the planting weekend. However, if you look outside, you'd question that.
Yes, for sure.
You definitely know why the 24th has been picked. But every May, gardeners, as they venture out into their yards and their gardens.
And even non-gardeners.
Or newbie gardeners.
That's right.
Old hat gardeners. We've all got questions.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight on Down the Garden Path is question period.
That's right. I love how official that sounds.
Yeah, it's question period. So write in studio 101@gmail.com, and Joanne and I are going to just have a casual conversation. We're going to answer your questions, chat about gardening, and just enjoy the amble up to busy season.
Absolutely. And whether it's a plant question, a garden question, if you've got a design question for us, you've got two landscape designers here, design dilemmas. Lawn questions. We know how much you love your lawns, everyone. So yeah, regardless of the topic, we're happy to answer your questions and, really kind of get us in the gardening mood, even though we're waiting for the weather to kick in to gardening mode, right?
You got it.
Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, while we wait for everybody to write in their questions, I can only imagine what in the world is happening at the garden center right now.
Oh, you know what? We're all anxious, and product is still arriving fast and furious in anticipation of a beautiful long weekend. But the weather's not cooperating.
No, for sure. How is it looking, the long range looking for the weekend?
It's looking like Friday, Saturday is going to rain again.
Oh, man.
But later in the week, it is supposed to get back up to, like midweek, we're going to start to see the 15s to 16s. We're going to rain, we're going to cool off a bit. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it looks like we're going to get some more sun again.
Okay.
And we're hopefully going to get closer to that 18, 19 mark again.
Yeah.
But
it still is too soon. That's a long range forecast, right? Like I think we won't know until, the day before.
That's why I call it weather. Whether it's going to be this, whether it's going to be that.
That's right. That's right. And I'll start off with a question. So we have, we said May long weekend in Canada, it's Canada, is the planting weekend. But really, when we tell people about the frost date always, we seem to say, is May 24th.
Right.
So should people be planting things, do you think, this weekend, especially with the temperatures not being really consistent?
Yeah, exactly. And at the garden center, we're telling people just keeping things inside. Play it by ear, definitely.
Yes.
And you're right. We keep leaving out, as May 24th is the final frost date. It's actually the average last frost date. So, we could get frost as far as June 2nd, really.
Yes,
realistically.
Yeah.
So, just be very careful.
Okay.
Remember, a lot of things in the garden centers are long ahead of their time.
Mm-hmm.
Can I plant this outside, this perennial, and it's a daylily and it's 2 feet tall, and the daylilies are barely 2 to 4 inches tall.
Right.
So it just kind of just play it by ear. Watch that weather. Don't leave anything outside really above starting below 7 to 8 degrees. So you start to run the risk of even just without frost, just being too cold.
Okay, but don't you I think when you think perennials and shrubs are fine and trees for sure?
The shrubs and trees for sure.
Okay,
for sure. The perennials depends on again how far they are, but whether or not they've also been brought along in cooler houses. If they've been heated or not. Some of our hostas and other things that we'll grow. We will put them in minimal temperature poly houses. Okay. And so they kind of slowly warm up without actual supplementary heat. Right. And then they are a little harder to go. Okay. Yeah. But and then the annuals and perennials.
Yeah, so definitely annuals and vegetables. The trick there, I think, is that because it's the long weekend, it's a pretty, nurseries do tend to sell out of the good stuff, right? So the good annuals, the good sizes or the unique colors, and the vegetables and the herbs, they tend to sell out. So you may not be able to plant them that weekend, but it is, the first few days leading up to that weekend and that weekend, which is this week, it is a good idea to purchase them, isn't it?
You got it. And I love that you said the vegetable word there. And yes, we find that in our garden center, at least, the May 2-4 weekend is all the ornamentals, all the flowers, etc. But it tends to be this weekend past and this week and even the week, just the last week.
Even this weekend past for vegetables?
Yeah, we've got a lot of them in, and some of the little weirder varieties. This year we are holding it a little tight. It's going to get delayed a bit. Okay. But it, usually, again, on average, it can usually be the veggies that weekend before the May 2-4. The veggies will crest, and then the ornamentals crest at the average frost date. But yeah, by like the last week in May, you may not find that black crim tomato or like that rare zucchini that you wanted, or the yellow watermelon. Yeah,
and that's really not the garden center's fault. It's just the volume that gets shipped out from the growers in that peak week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah. Then the growers are done. They're moving on to something else, right? So that's usually the situation. So don't be too hard on your garden center if they're sold out of that special product. It's just, they order it, and there's, it's not an endless, whereas perennials and trees, they can keep ordering more, and shrubs, they can, you can get hydrangeas from now until December 1st if you need them, right? But not so much with your lettuce or your special tomato varieties. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the poinsettias, those annuals have to be sold out of those growers for those Christmas screens.
Yeah, that's true
plants,
too. Yes.
Right? Poinsettias go down
And we won't
fairly
even get
early.
started on cannabis, which we are going to mention later in the show. So,
Yes.
so the questions are pouring in. So I think our first question was due to the weather. Mike has written in. Thank you, Mike. He has written in and says, "Hi, Joanne and Matthew. Thank you for taking my email. You're welcome. We love
Yes,
emails. With all of this rain we are having in the GTA, is it okay to, quote unquote, heavily rake our yards now? I've still been holding off due to all the wet weather. Thank you."
Congratulations, Mike.
Yes.
You've done it.
Yeah.
You win. Yes. Hold off. You're right. Your instincts are right. It's very, very wet. When the soil is wet like that and you're out on your lawn, you're going to compress that soil. You can compromise the root zone there, and the grass it is greening. So the raking thing should be okay, but staying off the lawn and out of your gardens when it's wet is the big damage at this point. And if
I think it's too wet to rake too.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to be out there even. And then the rake too. Yeah. If the lawn again it's greening, but is it growing? Is it growing where you are, Mike? Is it getting fairly long? Because you don't want to. You want that grass length to actually defend on a hard rake.
Okay.
If it's low, it's weak. You can damage the tips that are above the soil, and damage it too. So
and same goes with aerating. I think. I mean,
Same
it's
with
just. I mean, it
aerating.
is the season to aerate, but it's just too wet to aerate.
Yeah.
And those plugs should be. If a company comes by, those plugs should be teeny tiny and not these big, honks that you see because they're doing it on soil that's not dried out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And that's where you're dethatching and you're aerating. You want it to dry out and you want the lawn to be long so that when you're pulling up those weeds, they don't get that great start and take over, et cetera, et cetera. So
that's right.
Yeah, good on you, Mike, for waiting. Yes, excellent.
All right. And we've got another lawn question.
Oh, Michelle writes in, "Hi, any recommendations of a lawn fertilizer that I can put down with grass seed?" Thank you. Well, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, you know what? I always say organic. If you're going to put it down with the seeds, because the organic stuff can go down with the seed, but the soil really has to activate and start to break down that organic fertilizer to feed into the lawn zone. Whereas once the synthetic or the mineral ones, like your CIL Golf Green, for example, they start to dissolve fairly quickly.
Right.
And they can, if the seeds are growing or they're young or you've got too many down, that high concentration around those prills, you can run the risk of damaging them.
Okay.
So I always just give it a week or two before you do it, or let that initial melt off as they get watered in. You water in the synthetic fertilizer, let it dissolve, get that initial dissolve off and in, and then top dress and seed a week or two later.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
give
if
it
you're
just a
doing
little
organic,
time.
you can
You can mix
do
it in the same.
So there you go, Michelle. Save time and hassle and just go with a organic, and that way you can do the grass seed and the organic fertilizer at the same time. Yeah.
And when you get the organics down too, when your lawn's nice and thick, the organics will work the soil. When it's kind of weak, you can still work the soil and plant new grass seed, right? You can't do that when it's all nice and thick lawn. So those organics are going to help you do that too.
Excellent. Well, that's good.
Beautiful.
It's good. Yeah. So keep the questions coming. So if you need to email us, it's at instudio101@gmail.com.
So, yeah, we kind of went off on some questions.
Yeah,
So
we
that's
did.
what's happening in the garden centers.
Yes.
What about your garden? I mean, garden centers are
Yeah.
we're selling, but
I know not too much is happening actually in my garden. I mean, just been the weather really. So I've even taken some pictures. My Down the Garden Path version of the show as a newsletter went out last week, and I had showed people, this is what my garden looked like mid-April, and this is what the garden looked like the beginning of May, and like there was very little change. And so I think everybody understands that. I know we did one install, and the lady's like, well, the client was like, well, these plants are really small. And I'm like, yeah, but that's exactly what, mine are 3 years old in my garden and they look the same size,
Yeah.
So it's just, even for the growers, it's just been, we need some warm temperatures,
Yeah.
So the garden's coming along. But it is coming slowly, I have to say. So there's nothing super exciting happening at all. Like it's just really starting. I mean, I'm happy. It looks like everything came back. I have what I call a hell strip because I don't have a sidewalk. So I've planted my garden right to the curb, and we're on the inside of a corner. So the snow and the salt and my neighbor's snow from across the street. They pile onto my yard. And all my stuff, catmint, some hydrangeas, some creeping junipers. Everything did fine. Everything has come back.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's kind of a good. I mean, again, not growing profusely, but everything, there was nothing I had to rip out.
Right. They all made it through.
So,
Very cool,
so that's
very cool.
good.
Yeah,
That's
nothing to report with me either. Containers are ready.
Yeah.
If it wasn't going to get so cold and rainy like it was, I was going to put out the potatoes and get them going really started.
But balcony garden. So Matthew's a balcony gardener.
Yeah.
So it's still too soon, right?
Still, yeah. I don't want to put anything out there.
No.
And if you tuned in last week, you know that we spoke to Nikki Jabor about vegetables. And
That's
everything.
right.
That's what I like to grow it on my balcony. So, and I do have some nasturtium seedlings.
Excellent.
Some phoenixes.
Oh, good.
Ready for you. I almost brought them tonight, but it was so cold. I was like, my little babies, I didn't want to give you away and burn you. So I got those for you. So, yeah, it's just kind of waiting. Nothing really going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens then is we're going to go from 0 to like 150, right? Like that's the problem. We're going to be, we're going to be from winter coats to hot to sandals and shorts, and there's not going to be a real spring, So that never fails, but we could only hope anyway.
Yeah. That's hoping.
So Pedro has written in. So another question. He has 2. Excellent. So should we hold off right now on planting vegetable plants? I live in the GTA.
Yes.
And yes, we just mentioned that. So sorry you missed us. It's still too early. May 20, even past the weekend, Pedro, you want to wait till around May 24th.
Yeah. Yeah, wait and just, once it gets that really cool weather, watch that 8 degrees, that frost we had the other night.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, we want to have warm overnight temperatures still too. But again, like we were saying before, don't forget to jump out and get those crazy unique varieties, those peppers, those weird tomatoes, things like that. Now is the time to buy those.
And keep them in the garage, you think? Or should be in the house?
You keep them in the garage if you've got light.
Okay.
You've got some light in the garage and it's still fairly warm. The garage with the cooler temperatures than inside, but not as cold as outside would help harden them off a bit.
Okay.
But make sure that you do have some light in there. They're not going to do very well. They'll start to stretch.
Right, if there's no natural light. Okay.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
And number 2 question, is organic lawn fertilizer just as good as synthetic or not? I am confused. Thanks for your expertise. Love you folks. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Pedro.
We were just talking, we were recommending to Michelle that she do her grass seed with organic fertilizer. So technically they're both the same, right? Yeah. But there is some pros. We feel strongly that there are some advantages to using the organic.
Right.
Do you want to cover those?
Yeah. Yeah. And they are different and they work a little differently. One's natural, one's more mineral. The organic one isn't immediately available.
Right.
And it takes the organisms in the soil to break it down. But you feed the organisms in the soil and you're feeding the natural cycle of things.
So it's a slower but more natural process.
Right. So thank you, because I kind of hiccuped there.
That's okay.
So you can put it down and you won't see like an immediate greening kind of thing overnight. It's going to take a while to start, but it's going to give you a longer, more sustained feed.
Okay.
And feed the soil as well. Whereas your mineral or synthetic versions are going to release very quickly and they're going to give you a very quick burst of green. They last for so long and then the slow release kind of takes over and you start to see it kind of go back over some time to its just whatever non-fed green.
Right. And do you think anybody who's done synthetic and then we've had all this rain, like has it not just...
And that's the thing with the synthetic too, right? It's very water soluble. It's very starts to dissolve, not as quick as an actually dissolved fertilizer, but it's constantly dissolving and then it dissolves again when it gets wet again in the soil and keeps moving through the soil. Mm-hmm. And the organic is slower to break down. It does melt a bit and break down a bit with some water, but not as quickly as well. And even those prills break down into smaller pieces, but then they still need to be digested and worked on by the soil microorganisms as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so there's our take on it. I mean, either is good for sure, but we definitely lean towards promoting. I mean, just having more of a long-term look on things, and I think the organic gets you there.
Yeah, and I always say, Pedro, it's kind of like you and I are eating, right? We can eat a chocolate bar, and have all the sugars, and we can
Yes.
get bursts of food, and we can survive.
Yes.
But is it the best thing for us? No.
No.
Right? And then if we have a salad and a longer, more sustained, nutritious burst of
Maybe
food.
with some chicken in the salad.
Maybe some
Yeah.
chicken in the salad. But we're going to promote healthier insides and
Yep.
healthier environment all the way around. So
Right.
it's kind of like that. I
Well,
think.
that's cool to think of the synthetics as kind of like a chocolate bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just
good one.
immediately available.
Yes. Yes. Well,
So-
there you go. Thank you very much for your question. We're excited to have lots of questions today with our official question period episode.
You got it. So don't forget, write in any garden questions, design dilemmas, veggie questions, pest disease problems, something weird that's going on in your yard. We would love to hear about it. Don't forget to write us in studio 101@gmail.com.
That's
The
right.
questions are pouring in.
Yeah.
Shelley writes in, "Hi, Joanne and Matthew. I just wanted to say that I love your radio show. I listen every week when I can. I have learned a lot from the both of you. Enjoy the week."
Oh, thank you, Shelley.
That's very kind of you, Shelley.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you enjoy the show.
Yeah, we really do. We don't know why we enjoy doing it so much, but we really do, don't we,
We
Gary? So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah.
So Sue's written in. It's a bit of a plant question as well as a design dilemma, I think, in a way. And she has asked what to plant under a large evergreen. She can't seem to get anything to grow, or should she just limb up the tree and would that help?
Yes.
Common problem,
Yeah.
especially in mature neighborhoods where, you've got I had the large blue spruce on mine before it came down last May. So I don't know if we are in agreement with this one, but you go first.
As far as the limbing up, first
Okay.
of all, I say just leave it. If
Okay.
the tree is happy and it's healthy,
Yes.
just leave it.
Yes.
Right? When a tree actually, with the evergreens, the big evergreens like that spruce, when they start naturally losing those lower limbs, that's actually a signal of a health issue, or can be a signal of a health issue. So I like to just leave them.
Okay.
When in doubt, just enjoy it as it is, because that's what it's supposed to be.
That's right. And I have to agree. So I totally agree. I think with people that cut them off, like I just feel like you're revealing like the skirt, like, you know what I mean? It's just that you're not supposed to see that part of the evergreen, and if you are concerned that it's doing something unnatural and that's why you want to limit up, then I'd rather you go not do it yourself, but go talk to a professional. A lot of arborists will come. Mark, who's been on the show, they'll come and do a consultation, usually for free, and tell you, what's going on or what you could do or give you some advice. So definitely I'd say do get some advice from a professional beyond us if you're considering, especially a mature tree, because you can't, they're not going to grow back and you can't fix it, so
No.
it's a big commitment.
Measure twice, cut once.
That's right.
Kind of
That's
idea.
right. So as far as what to plant under it, really, I'll go. You want me to go first?
I went first last time.
I know. Why waste it? Why waste plants? I think it's tough. I know you hear a lot of people that even my hostas don't grow, and I put all this stuff, and I put all this water, and I put all this soil and all this work. We are all about low maintenance gardening here. So I say you may enjoy your tree. If you can extend the garden beyond the canopy of the tree, maybe, and you can maybe have some plants, on that perimeter, and that might help discourage you from looking at the, deadness underneath the tree, maybe. But just keep in mind that all the nutrients, all the water, everything that you give to those plants, the tree takes it. Right?
Yeah.
So it really is an exercise in absolute futility. And I'm just being honest. I'm a gardener, but I just know it's just not worth the battle. And I'm sure you've got other areas in your garden that you could focus on and that you could spend your money and your time that you're going to have much more satisfaction. You don't see hostas growing under trees, evergreens in the forest or out, in nature and public gardens even. So I think just not to worry about it.
And so we were I'm going to agree with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, completely. And I like your design thing, just your design tip too, is kind of exactly what I was thinking. If it's really that much of an eyesore, if you have the space incorporated into some sort of larger bed
Right.
to better enhance the overall landscape,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get more enjoyment out of that activity and incorporating it and enhancing it than you will trying to fight it. Because just like you said, the tree is designed to be a tree
Yeah.
and take up its space underneath itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing its thing. They're designed to do that. They're
That's
going
right.
to take up that space. And like you said, you walk out into the forest, and how many big trees and shrubs, and unless you're really tropical or
Right,
somewhere else.
right.
But in our area, at least,
Yeah.
the forest wins. It's there to be a forest.
Definitely. And I can say that I just mentioned how my blue spruce fell last year, but I had that same thing. So it was a big mature spruce. From the house looking in, yes, I saw the bareness, and I did try, lots of things, and they didn't work. But from the street side, I did extend I got rid of the grass and extended a garden about 4 more feet. And I put in a kind of a hedge of barberries, which do love it dry, and they love the sun, and they love the heat, and they love to be neglected. They're a pain because they're thorny,
Yeah.
but they are about 3, maybe 4 feet high, and they succeeded, and with no maintenance whatsoever. And when I lost my tree, the bonus was I lost my tree last May. I didn't replace that tree until October just because I do what I do. But, from my house, from the neighbor's side, like across the street or anybody driving by, I mean, you didn't really notice because that hedge had filled in that spot.
Mm.
So that, that is an option. If you are up to really wanting to, if you think that, especially if the arborist says the tree's on its way out and it's, and I had mine diagnosed and it was on its way out. We just didn't expect it to be so soon after that windstorm.
Yeah.
But that, I think, having those plants kind of already established really was a bonus for me. I don't know. I think I would have had to plant something right away and probably wouldn't have made the best decision. So anyway, that's just my own personal experience.
And remind us, what did you replace the tree with?
I did in October, Dawn Redwood, a very mature one, remember? And so it's a deciduous evergreen. So all my neighbors thought I planted a dead tree because it had already lost all its needles. But I'm happy to report that the needles are it's budding.
She's coming.
Yeah, and she's coming.
Nice.
Yeah, so very excited.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, and it's going to have like a yellow. They're going to be yellowish, which I think is going to be a wonderful contrast with the burgundy barberry. So I'm excited.
That would be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So thank you, everyone, for these questions. Sue, I hope that helps. So we have another question from Tommy. He says, help, with a lot of exclamation marks. I have tried everything. I'm trying to grow grass in a very shady and damp area on the east side of my house. What is the best seed, fertilizer, and technique to do this? There is very little, if no, sun in that area since the house shades it. Any advice would be much appreciated. Thank you. Excellent. We know everybody loves their long questions.
And that's okay.
Yes.
So, Tommy, I'm drawing straight to there is very little, if no, sun in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no grass that grows in the shade or in the woods kind of thing if you take it to a bigger picture. So if that area is actually getting less than 4 hours of direct sunlight, you are going to have almost no success growing grass plants there. The best one to grow there, the more quote-unquote shade-tolerant species in our area, at least that we have access to in the GTA, would be your creeping red fescue, and that usually makes up a majority of the shade grass seeds.
Okay.
So you can try something heavy like that with the shade, but there is technically no shade in the grass that grows in the shade. And that's why you see a lot of people either building actual shade gardens and, don't damage the swale between the houses if there is one, but, filling in with patio or river stone and decorating it in a different way by planting other highly shade-tolerant plants to decorate.
And Tommy, we can, if you want to write back in, we can turn this into more of a design dilemma. If you can explain us, what is this like between you and your neighbor, like that pathway to the backyard, that east side of the house? That's pretty common, where people can't grow grass and they often keep trying.
Yes, that's what I pictured.
That's what I'm picturing. So if that's the case, please let us know. I mean, usually we will recommend. I mean, in that case, if whether that is or isn't, I'm sure another listener has that issue. Really, it is better just to remove remove whatever attempts at grass and maybe put down. And this is the only case I do approve of the fabric, but I would say put fabric down and put either a pea gravel or another type of, whether it's river rock or something that's more steppable. And really just, again, we go back to the low maintenance gardening we talked about with the blue spruce, and stop, trying to spend money and time and effort on something that's just not going to happen. So it's better to do something more official, like stepping stones and some river rock. I mean, that's how I would solve it. Because I know you're trying to go grass usually because it's all muddy. You don't want it to be muddy, which I totally get. Yeah. And especially if it's on the path to the backyard. I think you'll save yourself. It's a little bit more of a budget, to do rocks instead of grass seed, but I think it's more of a long-term solution.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tommy, feel free to write back in if that's your case, or if you want us to help you, if it's an area that we can do a shade garden instead, then we can give you some plant ideas for that as well. So hope that helps.
And you know what? If you are, like Joanne said, one of those people who've had a very similar situation, and hopefully Tommy will give us some more details there, and you've had some success with something, write in, and we can share that experience with Tommy and see if that helps as well.
Okay.
Oh, and there he is. Yes, that's exactly it. Between two houses, I guess it's time for a rock or stone.
Yeah, Tommy, I just think it's the easiest thing to do, and then that stress of trying to make that grass grow.
Yeah,
you know.
That can still be simple and elegant and functional in the same way, right?
Yeah.
As the rest of the front yard in full sun, for example, could be as well. So,
yeah. Yep. There we go. Low maintenance. We're all about it here on Down the Garden Path, aren't we? Another question from Andy. Andy writes in. He says, is mulch that you buy in bags at box stores okay to use around my plants?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just watch that you don't put it right up against the neck of the plant.
Right.
Don't put it right around the crown and bury it, Andy, because where the plant comes out of the ground is its crown. And if you submerge that or surround it or suffocate it, you can overall just kill the whole plant.
Yes. So Google mulch volcanoes.
Yes, I was just going to say.
Mulch volcano, so that's not what to do.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Don't do that. Always give it a little area of 4-6 inches around the base of the plant. The plant's going to grow and expand and push that mulch eventually out of the way and cover that little extra ring of open soil that's between the mulch and the plant. You're not even going to notice it's there, but the plant will be much, much happier for it.
Right. And same with my 2 cents there too, along the lines of the organic fertilizer, is I just think going with more of the natural mulches versus the dyed stuff. I'm certainly not a fan. I joke with my clients that I make them sign a waiver that they don't use red mulch on anything I design. But so I just think, I don't know, long term, those chemicals are a good idea. They're unnecessary. We don't need dyed stuff in our gardens. Composted pines. There's lots of, just natural cedar mulch, So I definitely would look for those. Yeah, they might be 50 cents, $1 more. But I think in the long run, having more, because the whole idea is to have it break down and add to the soil.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I and just going on the mulches thing, I hate red mulch too.
Sorry, I know there's people that love it. But, I'll say that people who love it, it's because you see it and you think it looks so good. But my problem is that people are then looking, do you want to show people your garden, or do you want people to look at your mulch? Right? And usually when I say that to people, they're like, oh, yeah, I don't remember what was in their garden. I just remember the red mulch. Well, so.
Then it fades. And
it's pink. And
it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the natural colored mulches exactly for the same reasons. But I also find that as the plants in the garden fills in, it's just a natural neutral color that actually looks like soil anyways.
Yeah.
And it's all the benefits that you reap with it.
Yeah.
And just going back to that tree, limbing up an evergreen, I love it when it's just a nice little mat of nice needles, fallen needles, the odd cones scattered around. It's something just very natural and well kept looking.
That's right. It's not artificial. Yeah.
No, it's just very organic feeling.
Yeah. Excellent.
So,
excellent.
Definitely, Andy. Hope that helps.
Yeah. So Joe is written in. This is good. You have insects now. Haha. Is there anything I can do about a lot of spiders on my porch and on the siding of my house?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Here we might weigh in again, but
yes.
I say
I have nothing.
Oh, okay.
So it's all yours.
I'd wonder what they're doing.
Okay.
But if there's
what the spiders are doing?
Right.
Okay.
But if there's that many of them,
right.
There's and depending on what time of year, there's probably an egg sac that's hatched.
Okay.
And they're starting to spread all over the place. And it's
Okay.
usually earlier in the season.
Okay.
Spiders we know are good guys, right?
Yes.
We want spiders. Spiders are great. They're going to help, remember, all other insects, 90% eat other insects.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of try to let them be, try to avoid them, let them kind of spread out. If they're we used to have that problem growing up as a kid. We used to have little baby, I don't even know the species. I never really looked it up, to be honest. But little tiny gold-backed spiders with a little black line on them.
The fact that you remember the details like that is like kind of a little scary.
Probably
I have to say. Right, Gary? Like that's pretty weird. Like he remembers when he was
I don't
a
mind
kid.
spiders.
Yeah, I know, but I kind of picture the way they say it's on the siding and porch and stuff. I picture that the issue might not be the spiders as much as it's the spider webs, right? Then like you can't, you walk into your front door and you're walking through webs. Like I can just see that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes when I've done designs at homes like close to the lake, like South Ajax, South Pickering, they tend to kind of have that period of time where, yes, you see a lot of webs on their siding, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd notice if they had a brick house. I don't think you'd notice it as much. I'm sure the spiders are still there.
Oh yeah, exactly. And my sister lives out in Belleville, and you get those surges of mosquitoes, and then you get all the gnats and everything. And definitely, at certain times of the year, the spider, they're drawn to the light, they're active. The spiders come up, they do their thing. Yeah, so you may have just those swells of insects where the spiders will come out. They're kind of doing their thing. The insects in the food are prolific.
Okay.
And they take over, and it's unsightly, and you have all the dead bugs. And
Yes.
Yeah, try not. You can.
Do you think
break it
having
apart,
introducing
become again.
birds, are you is it kind of like a predator prey thing? Like, should we get maybe set up a bird feeder and the birds would start eating the spider? I know that the spiders are good because they're eating other bad bugs, but if they're really bothering you, we don't want to get into chemicals necessarily,
don't do
right?
that.
Because they are a beneficial insect.
Yep.
So is it better to introduce things like maybe a praying mantis?
Yep.
You can buy the eggs, Urban Nature Store, NIC, right? NIC, Natural Insect Control. You can get the
praying
mantis.
Thank you. Mantis.
Whew,
Yeah.
right out of my head, the praying mantis.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like let nature kind of take care of it.
Yeah. So you just attract more nature. Yeah. The birds
Yeah.
can help reduce the insects, which might reduce the number of spiders, including the spiders.
Yes.
A bat house. If you're near woods, the bats will hunt nocturnally while the insects are out, and clean up a bunch of them as well. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Joe. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Hope that helps, Joe.
Yeah.
So. We're reaching the last 20 minutes of the show.
Oh, my goodness.
So if you're just tuning in, this is question period on Down the Garden Path. And we're answering all of our listeners, like I'm online, listener questions, design dilemmas, insect questions, lawn questions, pruning questions. You name a question. If it's happening outside in your garden, we'd love to hear about it. Write, say hi, share some success. In Studio 101 at gmail.com. Again, in Studio 101 at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and answer your questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see. Oh.
Connie is writing in. Oh, spiders. I hate them. What is the latest time that we can aerate our lawns here in the GTA? Well, there we go, Connie. So basically we want to aerate when it's dry, like we were saying earlier. We want to do it. The best time, again, is in the fall.
Oh, it's fall the best time.
Right.
It's so funny. People want to do it in the spring.
We can do it, and you can do it in the spring. But we want to do it when it's dry and the lawn is a little longer. Because as we take out those plugs, the grass is trapping weed seeds and other things. So we want the grass to be nice and long and healthy and vigorously growing before we pull them and leave them on the lawn.
Right.
So that's why it's great that kid comes around in the spring, like
way too soon.
But way too soon. Come back in like another month or two, kid,
Yeah.
or come see me when school starts and I'll double your wage, kind of thing. Yeah. So we just want to do it when the grass is long, when it's dry, so that those plugs don't, any of those trapped seeds or dormant seeds sprout and take advantage in the early spring to do it. That's why I say it's the fall.
Okay. I could see the advantage of that in the fall.
Yeah. And then just going back to like the birds and the nature, pardon me, nature's smart. The animals and the birds are smart, right? They're getting ready for fall. They notice the days are growing shorter. They dig and hide food. That's kind of what they're doing as it starts to cool off. And why is that human digging over there?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And they're always watching whether you see them or not. They'll actually investigate the plugs.
Okay.
And you see all those.
Is that a good thing?
Well, yeah. If they see any seeds in there, they'll peck at them. They can pick out any of those weed seeds that they might have a spot to germinate, and as they investigate the plugs, they can slowly help you break them down. They're not going to go across your lawn and pick at every single one, but
do all that work for you.
Right. But it's just, again, the lawn is at full strength. We've had a good growing season. It's easy to regenerate. Fall is the best time to be planting your grass seed, just because you've got a good growing season and dormant and another good growing season. So yeah, you're aerating and you're dethatching. Do it in September when it's cooling down and things are growing strong again, and you've got a nice thick strong lawn after a good long season.
Okay, so Connie, you can relax and not worry too much about doing the aerating right now.
Yeah.
If you do want to do it in the spring, then definitely we need to, I'm thinking more the end of May or so, right? Until the ground dries up and we get some warm temperatures and the grass is really growing. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to get sod for the weekend at our garden center because it's been so wet.
I don't know.
So who knows?
Yeah, it's growing. I know they were cutting it earlier, but I know whether it's,
Yeah. And also, Connie, sorry, as it just pops into my head, at our garden center, speaking of, we have actually aerating sandals. So it's kind of a gimmicky, gardeny tech thing, but there's little nails, so they're not going to pull plugs, but they're going to put in little spaces that are about an inch or two deep into your lawn, and you can strap those on once a month when you walk around to mow your lawn.
Yeah, sure. So. Or make your husband do that.
He's mowing the lawn anyway.
That's right. Or your son. In my case, my son. My son would never do that. I can barely get him to mow the lawn. But anyway. So there you go. We've got lots of lawn questions. So what else do we have on top, Matthew?
Declan writes in, shrubs are large, but only green at tips. Lots of dead branches inside. Can I cut those? So dead branches, yes. Mm-hmm. If you ever see a shrub and then you know they're dead.
Right.
They're broken and they're brittle. Yes.
Oh, and there's no buds. Maybe there's no buds right now because right now I know a lot of things are just starting. But
yes, and that too, and that's kind of where the brittle thing. If the branch kind of came through, there should be some give to it. It should still be flexible,
right?
In a way, unless it's very thick and woody, and then you're going to have to break it. But
yeah.
There's usually a little bit of give to it. So just make sure that it's dead. I like to say, just wait. Just wait till it leaves out and it buds, and just when the leaves are half unfolding, you can really see who's not going to bud out. But then you can still see the structure of the overall shrub. You can see, those three in there are definitely dead. Let me get those out, and then let her go.
I think sometimes that's fairly common with things like burning bush, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. Where you get, it looks like a nice lush bush, but then if you part those branches, those leaves at the end, and you see it's all kind of, because people are trimming them instead of pruning them, right?
Right. You're pruning, you're trimming them and creating a lot of new breaks or with
new growth, the tips.
Yeah, the tips. You break off one and two kind of come out.
Right.
It creates a nice dense canopy, and the sun doesn't penetrate fully through the shrub. Mm-hmm. And then you've got all those empty stems. But those empty stems are still alive, most of them, but they've got green little shoots on the very end. So if you cut them out, you can kind of ruin your shrub.
Right. But can it encourage some new growth, though? Like, should you go in and do some pruning of the insides just to kind of encourage new growth inside?
Yeah, you can, depending on like what you want to do with with the shrub. If you're actually going to prune it versus hedge and trim it, for sure. Okay. Potentillas, everyone. I love potentillas. Potentilla fructicosa is a native here.
And Joanne's shaking her head.
She's like, ew. But you have to go in and prune a third of that older wood, that oldest wood, to kind of get some new stems growing and that new flush and that shape to kind of keep going again. So if you've got an older shrub that needs a little bit of rejuvenation and you're worried about some dead stems or it's looking a little thin, go in and take a third of the oldest wood.
Right.
And that's kind of the rule about your pruning, is never take more than a third of the active foliage. Mm-hmm. If you've got 10 stems, you can take 3. Kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the 2/3 is just keeping the lights on type thing, and you can really stress it out as you cut it back hard. And there's always exceptions to the rules, and
right, for sure.
All those, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, and Jazz writes in, welcome back, Jazz. We have missed you. I need to trim and prune my trees now. Nothing major, just some cleanup. Is it okay to do now? Thank you for your answer. Okay, so... trees. I know. When's Mark on? Mark's on in a couple of weeks.
Yes,
we have a tree episode coming up, Jazz, the end of May. May 27th, right? That's right. Mark is going to be back on.
So tune in for a very definitive
answer
on that. But yeah, watch like the fruiting trees, things like that. Yes. Maples. There's a lot of heavy sap runners right now that are just flowering. Then you can cut them and just watch them bleed for days.
That's right. So anything that's like maples, Japanese maples, there's a lot of things that think of the maple syrup, like the sap is running in all of those trees.
Mm-hmm.
And anything flowering is going to flower, and so we don't want to trim them. Right, until after they've flowered.
Right, yeah. So your lilacs, hold off on things like your lilacs. Your forsythias are in full swing right now. Do that afterwards. Evergreens as well. Wait, you want them to be much colder because they'll just bleed out that sap.
That's right.
And I'm thinking as I say that, like a bigger, larger, like we were talking, like a blue spruce. Right. We know we're going to trim and prune our evergreens mid-May through June once that growth starts appearing. We're going to kind of do some maintenance and shaping. For sure. What else do we want to do? Hydrangeas. That tends to be, just cut off the flowers, let them leaf out.
Right. Well, we hope that answers your question, Jazz. It's hard to know without knowing exactly which trees and how old.
Yeah.
But we are having Mark Irwin back from Bartlett Tree Services on May 27th. So please check out that show. Or if you do have specific trees, you can email us you can email me at joanne@down2earth.ca with the number 2. And I can, if you give me more specifics about your tree, I can see if Mark can answer an email prior to the show. But yes, if there's like certainly dead, broken branches it's obvious, from winter damage, that type of thing, that's fine. But still, I think the later in May that you wait, I think is, there's no reason to do it earlier. Oh, good. Yeah. You're welcome.
You're welcome, Jazz. Yeah. Yeah. If it's dead and you know it's dead, always just remove it. Remember, clean your pruners. Make sure that you're not passing around diseases as you cut things. Make sure that your blades are sharp. There is a left-handed and a right-handed secateur. So, just be wise.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. We've got a veggie question here. So Tammy has written in to say, what soil do I use for my I want to put veggies in a pot. What soil do I use for my veggies in pots? Just potting soil?
I'm going to plug Nikki Jabor from
last week. So Tammy, last week we talked about this.
We did, yeah. And Nikki was saying, I believe if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, she agreed with you, so you totally remember correctly.
Okay. Because I was putting in like a potting mix, but then I was enriching it with like a compost.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'll put in a half or 2/3 of a potting mix, and then I'll dump in a manure or a sea compost. There's Fafard, because I love Fafard. If you know, they have a nice sea compost, which is great to even just layer on the bottom and mix it in completely.
Okay.
So I kind of do that. Yeah. So you can use some of the heavier stuffs like the compost to give it that nutrient boost.
Okay.
I wouldn't do all of it because it can get fairly heavy.
Right. Right. And that'd probably be just like almost overkill, wouldn't it? Yes. You need that aeration and that lightness in containers.
Right.
Go big or go home on the containers, right? When planting veggies, because I know you're buying those little cell packs, and those little tomatoes don't look like they're going to be much, but boy, do they get big.
Oh yeah, I've got on my balcony. I keep saying I grow the tomatoes. I've got like a 40-liter or like a 40-gallon tree pail.
Okay.
Out on my balcony that fits like a massive tomato and a thing of blueberries. And, a lot. So go big or go home. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and you want to keep it light too, because you may have to move them. What if you have to move them around, right? If you have that super heavy soil, you're going to need you and 2 other people, because you got the weight of the soil and the weight of the pot to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm wondering also if you last year, so anybody who grew, let's say last year in their pot, if they needed can you reuse that soil, or should you be something you do new every year?
And so just speaking from my own experience, yeah, I find that my soil kind of wears down a bit and it breaks down and absorbed and blows away a bit. So yeah, I will, sometimes I'll take it out. I'll usually every like 2 to 3 years, I'll take a portion of it out and really rejuvenate it.
Okay.
Otherwise I will just, I use organic fertilizers, and I'll always top it up and really churn in some fresh compost into that mix as it becomes lighter and breaks down a bit more, for sure. But yeah, every 2 to 3 years, I find you just kind of have to dump it all out and restart again, or take a good portion of it out and start again, kind of thing. And you just get a better soil profile, I find. Yeah, my tomatoes are always happier every 2nd to 3rd year.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Oh, Jake's writing in. Another great and informative show. Thank you again for all the free advice. It is great.
Oh, you're welcome. We love doing
welcome,
this. So
Jake.
yeah, that's great. I'm glad that it's helpful too, because we really do strive to help you keep your gardens low maintenance and just give you, make you everybody's positive, have a positive experience in the garden. Right?
Exactly. We were talking about why we do it earlier, and I mean, I do it because you guys are successful. We hear that you guys are enjoying it and you're learning stuff and you're having success in your own garden. So that's always great to share our passions.
That's for sure, for sure. All right. And so John has written in, can I trim my boxwoods now? So that is something that's always and I think people I think the answer will be the same as far as use. But yeah, what do you think? It's soon, people still have a little bit of winter damage, or little like shoots are kind of coming off a bit. Should they start aggressively pruning their boxwoods?
Yeah, aggressively.
Well,
I would say no.
People usually do it aggressively, so that's what I'm assuming. Not accusing you, John, but I'm just assuming aggressively. But maybe you're going to be gentle. So, what do you think? When should we do our boxwoods?
At this time, I just like to take out any winter damage, any obviously dead things, anything glaring. But then I would wait until she's flushed out and filled out to actually do the shaping. When she starts to do her actual main growing period, go in there and do the shape, because you can cause her to break and fatten up. If there was some winter damage, you're going to give her the chance to actually refill that, like, say a soccer ball kind of damage hits it and breaks it. That's a time where she's going to start to knit back together.
Or the snow or the ice kind of build up sometimes.
That's a better example. Sometimes you got the snow landed on it or
some
funny
people
and pushed it
balls.
aside. I used to kick them into my mom's bleeding heart all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like our flowering shrubs, where we say if you cut them, you're going to ruin this year's flower. It's kind of the same with boxwood.
Yeah.
And I've seen people who have already gone and hedge trimmed them to death. Yeah. And I just think, so now that new growth that's going to come out, that normally is kind of the end of May, beginning of June, usually more about the beginning of June, you're not going to get that. Yeah. So you're going to get that harsh, cut look at most of the summer now. If the season's good, you might get a second kind of flush of green buds coming maybe later, in July kind of thing. But so that's something. It's better to wait. And even though they're even with the yews, I know there's some spiky, long growth.
Yeah.
On the yews, I have that in my hedge, my dense yew hedge at home. It's just better to wait, because you can see, if you stop and look for a second, you can see all the buds about to come. Yeah. And so if you were to trim it now, then those buds don't. You're cutting off the buds. Yeah. So in the new growth.
She spent all that energy to get you ready. I
know. So hopefully, so you can hold off, John. No rushing to get out the hedge trimmers.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Exactly. And it is going to be delayed, at least where we are, because it's so cold and it's so wet and rainy. So
I'm hearing things are super ahead and happy in BC, because they're getting record warm temperatures and no rain, and we've got all their rain. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
BC.
Yeah. Wow. So this was a jam-packed show. I love it. Question period.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone who has written in, and as people write in, I always write down their names.
That's right.
To thank you at the end of the show, and I've got, I think, a record number of names. So Mike, Michelle, Pedro, Shelley, Sue, Tommy, Andy, Joe, Declan, Jazz, Debbie, Jake, and John.
Excellent.
Thank you very
everybody.
much.
Yes.
for
Yeah.
joining the conversation and
That's
question
right.
period. It was amazing. Thank
And
you.
we do want to reiterate our end of the month show, that last Monday of the month, we talk about what to do in the garden. So we're excited that June in the Garden Show, which is happening May 27th. Matthew, you can't be here, but Mark is going to join me. Our arborist is going to join me in the studio, and we're going to talk about trees, and I'm hoping boxwoods and evergreens and what to do with those plants, because June's a really key month for them.
Yeah.
And so our June in the Garden is going to have a bit more of a tree and evergreen shrub focus. So we're going to cover a lot. So please stay tuned for that. May 27th. And next week we're gonna we've been waiting to talk about it, and we finally got to talk about it, don't you think?
We are.
Yes, you're gonna do all the research for us.
I am. I've done some plant research. I'm polishing off some laws and government kind of research. But we are going to talk about cannabis.
That's right.
Going to the pot route.
That's right. We're going to talk about growing it, because now it's quote unquote in Canada legal to grow it.
Yep.
4 plants per household, not person. But finding how to grow it, finding the seeds or the plants. Lots of people have questions. So we are going to do a show. It's our holiday Monday, but we're going to be here, and we are going to talk cannabis. So get your questions ready, everybody.
I was just going to say, get those questions rolling.
I can see Gary. Okay, what are your questions?
Are we going to give out any free samples?
Yeah. No, I don't think. Well, we'll see if those are in the regulations that Matt comes up with.
When we give away prizes.
Right.
And your show, you give away stuff a lot of times.
Yes.
People are going to wonder if we're giving away any cannabis plants. That's
right. Well, we'll have to see if that when he finalizes his research on the regulations. So maybe we can give away other things, but we'll have to see. We have to see there. So I'm hoping everybody's curious. I know I get asked questions.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot emerging topic that not everybody's 100% on. There's a lot of people who are hearing mixed things.
Wait till you have to design a cannabis garden. Are you waiting for that one?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, no. I don't know what's going to happen there, or just whether you can grow it. That's a question, whether you can.
That's true.
Can you grow them in a vegetable garden? Or do they have to be separate from your other plants? What? Yes, I have lots of questions for you, Matthew.
We will talk, and we're going to get you the 411.
But the question is, in all honesty, is that legally, when someone calls you as a designer, they might say, and on this little plot, I want a cannabis garden. You're going to have to design it for them.
Well, I don't know that there's much design, because I think they can put 4 plants in, so.
Here's the tomato garden.
Yeah. So, but I get lots of questions. Pretty much almost every client now wants a vegetable or a food growing area in their gardens that I design in their yards. So, so it's just a matter of time, like you said, Gary.
Just a matter.
That's right. So we want to again thank everybody. We remind you to, subscribe to Down the Garden Path on your favorite podcast app, especially if you didn't catch all of our questions today. We had lots of great questions and answers.
We did.
And our gardening question period episode. So
that's it.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, share, comment.
That's right. Check us out. I'm at Down to Joanne Shaw, my Down to Earth, the number 2.ca.
I'm naturalaffinitydesigns.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
That's right.
Thanks again. Thanks, Gary. Thanks to all of our listeners. And thank you for joining us down the garden path here on Reality Radio 101.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your host, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.